All right. Welcome to this month's webinar. We are going to talk about Google Business Profile Optimization, formerly called Google My Business, GMB, I guess. I think it's been a couple of years now, but map pack rankings, I guess, you hear all kind of different things. Um, but yeah, you guys hang on to the end too. We put together like a little playbook slash workbook for you guys. Um, that can kind of help you have a checklist and strategies that you can implement with your team um, whenever you get back and get going. So some of you may have hopped on some of our webinars in the past. I've been doing these for a while. I'm going to try to get a little bit more consistent now, but so I'm the founder and CEO of Restoration Marketing Group. Used to work construction sales, started this a long time ago now. And then also for all you people that like podcasts, also host the Restoration Success Show where we talk a lot about marketing and sales. But the last one I think I did, we talked a lot about operations, SOPs, playbooks, how to leverage AI on getting some of those done quicker, more organized. So I bring on industry experts in this field and we just try to provide value and see what's working now, right? Because we're in a fast changing industry. So, and like I said, everything I'm going to cover today, this game is hard. It's not perfect, but we've been helping grow and scale restoration companies for a long time now, and it's not easy. But these strategies work, right? And I'm showing a lot of this for a mindset shift because we still see it. I'm sure you've been burned by a million marketing companies. You tried it, it didn't work. I mean, I've heard it all, right? And because it's not easy. But I show stuff like this, and I'm like, all right, well, just don't do it then, right? That's the only options you got. And I'm not saying you're going to get 722,000 from two jobs, but they're out there from marketing, online marketing. And if you don't, if some of you have been in my, some of my webinars, podcasts, I like to use the fishing pole metaphor, right? You got to put poles in the water to catch fish. If you don't put the pole in the water, the fish isn't just going to jump in the boat, right? That's just like the leader job. It's not just going to like fall out of the sky. So these strategies do work, but it is not easy. And ultimately, another mindset shift I want people to start thinking about is when you start looking at your cost per lead, your answer rate, your booked appointment rate, your close rate, this is how you scale, right? Because a lot of people don't even do this. And I pulled this. This is not from a Google business profile. This is just one fishing pole we help this particular guy with. But again, I just want you to understand like each of these fishing poles, if you look at the cost per lead and the volume, why you want to scale it, in my opinion, is because a lot of you probably heard is 33-mile inquiry service direct, and a lot of our clients use them, to be honest, because again, why? It's other fishing poles. But it's hard hitting your growth goals with just those sources alone. But if you're getting a 75% discount off of the going rate of normal leads, and it's exclusive leads. Now this is blended. This particular partner does water, fire, and mold. And you're only paying $260. Like if you can't make that math work, there's other issues in the business, to be quite frank. Um, and some of you might be like, oh, $216 a lead. And again, if you can't make that work and you do MIT, and again, that's creeping up on the higher end, maybe just for a little mold job, but if you can't make that math work when it comes to water damage and fire damage, like I said, there might be another constraint in your business. Um, and again, I'm going to get into the Google Map app, but you got to have the foundation and tracking in place so that way you can know whether it's working or not, right? So this is something that we do for our clients, and you guys could do this yourself too. That's why I'm showing this. But if you start watching good lead, bad lead, booked appointment or not, you can take that information and start looking at your close rate, right? Then you could, if, for the analyticals, on here or watching this, you could look at your close rate by source, right? By fishing pole and by service. We all know mold has a lower closing rate than a mitt job, right? Anybody can close a mitt job. That doesn't even count in my mind. But when it comes to rebuild, remodeling, mold, asbestos, some of our, some of you guys might have remodel construction divisions. The close rate's going to typically be a little lower there, right? So I wanted to start with this because, like I said, I want everybody to understand that like this stuff works. You just have to have the strategies in place. And again, is it easy? It is absolutely not easy. But as we all know, in the restoration space, you can make a lot of money in it, right? And you can help the people that have the problem at the same time, right? They want to get back in their house. So I just show these, and again, just our means and methods. And again, we're not perfect. I always, sometimes I don't want to come off like, oh, we got it all. It's not. This is a hard game. But look, when you're getting 65 appointments, 58 appointments consistently, like if you can't make money from that, like I said, there's other issues. So that's why we started tracking it that way. So just wanted to I want to help people shift people's mindset in this industry because if you think it ain't gonna work, then it ain't gonna work, right? Just don't do it. But again, it's 2026, so I'm here to like I said, this stuff is not going away. So a lot of times I'll pull one of these facets to do a deep dive on the webinar. And so today we're going to be focusing more on the Google Business Profile stuff, which falls underneath the organic side of driving leads, right? There's no additional cost. I mean, yes, you typically have to either, pay in your time to do this yourself, or, a lot of agencies like we do, you just pay us to deal with it and handle with it, right? Because you're like, man, I don't have time for this and stay on top of the latest and greatest changes. I know y'all have experience and been doing this, run with it. But there's no additional cost above and beyond that, when the call or message or email lead comes through. And now that's why this is a great fishing pole. And I actually just dump this in here too, because some of you might not be able to stay. We just rolled this out, but we have a review removal service now. Just book a call with us and, I'll have to look at your situation. But we guarantee it usually, because usually bad reviews are violate Google's like I said, this is a competitive industry. We got competitors sometimes saying stuff's not true or whatever. But why this matters, and again, I'm gonna do another webinar down the road, and some people still do not believe me on this, and I'm like, fine, don't. I've been doing webinars and stuff on this for 5-6 years. Reviews matter. And the metaphor I use is like most people on here have heard of Amazon. What do you do when you go to Amazon? You search product, you look at the top results, you look at reviews, you purchase product. What do you think people do in the restoration and home service world? They go to Google, they look at the top results, they look at reviews, they place phone call. That's what you want. And, I whited out some stuff here because I'm not trying to bash people. But I can tell you right now, nobody's calling even if they see you. Now, if it's a referral, and I want to act like this company's not getting business, but I can tell you they're not getting as much as they should be. If you 2.9, like people will be like, God, what are they doing over there? It affects conversion rate, and we have the data all across the U.S. and Canada to back this up. So I wanted to bring this up, and again, we'll do a separate webinar on reputation management and reviews. But just keep an eye on it. I'm telling you, it's a factor. So let's get into some more specifics on the Google Business Profile play, right? So what we're going to do today, we're going to look at how these rankings affect the local pack. Obviously, we got AI coming into the mix now, so we all have to consider that. Um, we're going to talk about some optimizations you guys can do, and then some mistakes that we see um, across the board. Now, and honestly, I don't know if I brought this particular one up. And some people do this on purpose. Like we have some clients that do, and there's multiple reasons why they do. 95% restores are 24/7, right? Well, guess what? This one right here, I just noticed this when I was looking at it, closes at 4:30. Google looks at their hours. If a house floods and wherever this market is, I grab this at 8:30, they're not ranking in the map pack. And so they're not going to get found and they're not going to get that lead. So they could, well, they're not going to double their business because nobody's going to call it a 2.9. But if 12 hours of the day they're open and 12 hours of the day they're closed, they could potentially double their business just by getting the hours right. If they're 24/7, which, most of you on here are probably 24/7. So that's a little thing that just something to think about. Most of y'all probably have this set up right and it's fine. But like I said, I just noticed this. I'm like, man, not only is this killing them, that's killing them. So just keep that in mind. And like I said, we're going to go over other mistakes as we go throughout the webinar. And, the idea of some of this, some of you guys might be doing some of this, but as you get going, I pulled this from, because we track our Google business profile rankings using the heat maps. Like you want to expand the radius out as far as you can. And yes, there's limits to it. You're not ranking 60 miles away from where your office is in the map pack, at least. There's other strategies to go after that traffic and get leads and jobs there. But for this particular fishing pole or lead generation channel that we're talking about today, it's a lot of it is based on, well, not only optimizations, but how many competitors in your area. You're in a bigger market. There's going to be a lot more players, most likely. That means a lot more offices. So Google's going to look at all of that. But the further you can get this going and out into the top 3, which is the map pack, the more lead and job volume you're going to get. So that's why this stuff is as far away from a set it and forget it as you can get. Because you better believe it. You stop it, your competitors are trying to take your position. So that's like a long-term goal here of what we're going to be talking about today is you want to increase your radius and the keywords you're ranking for over time. And again, remember, everything I'm talking about today, like we're going to talk a little bit of technicalities, but at the end of the day, we're trying to get more high buyer intent leads and jobs for more revenue, right? Because the revenue is what grows the business. But a lot of the, more technical stuff I'm going to cover today is going to be how we're going to get that done, right? So it is still a huge driver of local calls because it's extremely proximity based, which we'll talk more about. Now we have AI and these LLMs and all this stuff coming into play, and I'll talk more about that. And, I'm still coming across companies that don't even have this set up. And some of y'all, and again, it's fine, some of you maybe work with TPAs and you've grown your whole business with TPAs or referrals or whatever. But usually people get stuck by doing just those methods. And it's hard to scale them, right? And what I've been hearing is like claims were down 30% across the board last year, at least here in the US. So you got to take that into account. And I've also heard TPA volumes down. So if you're trying to battle all of that and you don't have a Google business profile, getting it set up is step one, right? Obviously, like nobody's definitely going to call you if you can't find it. So this is why this poll, and this plays into a lot of other factors too, is why you want to make sure at a bare minimum have it set up. And like I said, we're going to get into some more granular stuff. But Google's trying to show the most trusted company in its mind to the end user, right? And there's a lot of factors which we're going to cover on how it decides that. It's not just one of these, it's a combination of them. And that's what makes this game hard. So And then AI search, like I said, that is, I did another webinar. I'll probably do another one this year on it, but Google Map Pack still matters because depending on the intent of the keywords searched, sometimes the AI overview is the thing at the top, but it's typically research-based stuff, which can help with click-through traffic and stuff like that to and building branding to your website. But water damage companies near me, they're not throwing that at the top yet. People are still scrolling down and calling through the map pack, right? But it's still on the first page of Google, so that's still why it matters. But Google, if we're zooming up to the 30,000 foot view on this, Google's looking at the relevance to the search, the proximity, and then the prominence, right? Like, is this an established company that can help the person searching? And then, a lot of what we're going to talk about is the relevance and prominence of how to do this, right? Because it's made of different factors. So the AI summaries, though, and ChatGPT and Perplexity and all these, Copilot, there's different LLMs, which stands for large language models. Like, there's more and more by the day. We'll see, they're fighting for the top position now. Now you got, Elon's Grok out there, which is integrated into Twitter. I mean, there's all kind of, but they crawl all of this to get a pulse. It's almost like a newer version of SEO, right? This is kind of why we do them hand in hand when it comes to AEO and SEO, is because the AEO is looking at the proper SEO, right? And so the AI summaries too are looking at the GBP to get context on the company. Reviews matter a lot, not only from a conversion rate standpoint, like we talked about earlier, but they want to see what the review is about. And then it just wants to be an updated, clean, professional looking website. And now the AI can like see the images and what's going on. It can read them, right? Which is wild that here we are even saying that. Um, so a little more details on this. They pull data from the GBPs. When you get review, I mean, a 5-star review is a 5-star review. You want it. But if you're getting it in person and they happen to say ABC, restoration did great, removing the mold in my attic, that's a more valuable and will carry more weight to Google and the AI platforms than just a 5-star review that says great service. Does that make sense? Now you don't want to go keyword stuff, stuffing and saying, they helped do the mold removal in my attic. I was so scared of the mold. Like, this is the best mold company out there. I highly recommend them for all your mold issues. Like, Google knows that they're like, what are these people doing, right? So you never want to do spammy stuff like that. But a real authentic review about the service you help them with can carry some weight. Um, and then yes, you obviously want it completely filled out. There's Q&A, services, descriptions, photos, all that good stuff. And again, don't spam any of it, but you want it built out professionally and completely based on the services your company does. And then, AI sometimes will pull in depending on the prompt or search somebody does, but this is where it's valuable to at least have it fully built out, because sometimes it'll pull in a quote or something, right? Like, depending, oh, this is so dialed in. This is exactly what the person just asked me via prompt, and then they'll pull that over, right? Um, and then obviously that's kind of what I talked about here in the middle. Like, they will crawl it to get context. And again, we're going to talk more strategies on how to, but this is the basics, right? We got to have it set up, verified. We got to have the profile fully filled out. And then, there's some SEO factors too, which I'm about to get into. So those are those pieces. Now, where this can get difficult and tricky is they're also looking at, the entity consistency, which some of you maybe have heard of NAP. That stands for name, address, phone number, right? And again, you can't just do one of these and dominate typically. Now, if you're in a smaller market, less competitive, you might be able to get away with, a handful of them, but usually it takes all done well. And then the quantity of some of them can vary depending on the competition. But name, address, phone number, because that builds trust in the eyes of Google and these AI platforms, right? And if it sees name, address, phone number consistent, then it doesn't confuse the large language models or Google as much. Because, oh, okay, yeah, I know where this business is located. And then the more of those, which kind of rolls down into point two, these can be also called citations. The more of those out there from authoritative sites, that gives you credibility and trust in the mind of Google and these AI platforms. Because, like, well, man, because if somebody has four and their NAP is not consistent, and then somebody has 144 across relevant and authoritative citations, who do you think who's going to get more weight for this particular ranking factor, right? The one with 144. Um, and this can play into this is why SEO and Google Map Pack rankings can play hand in hand because then news articles, because one, off-page strategy we have that we do for our clients is like you can do a press release for the backlinks, the authority, and this you can tie that into the website and the Google Business Profile. Because remember, the Google Business Profile connects to your website. So Google crawls all of this. And so that builds the domain authority of the website, and you can put the Google Business Profile inside of that. And again, you don't want to overdo it and spam it though. That's why this game is hard because there's a balance. But they use that for authority and credibility from an online perspective. And then another thing, an SEO play that affects the Google, like this is how we do our sites and SEO. If you have location pages or city specific pages, remember Google crawls through your Google business profile to your website. And, I'm in Charleston, South Carolina. So if somebody's searching water damage companies in Charleston, and then I have a GBP set up for that and a location page for Charleston on my website, that's going to carry more weight into the Google Map Pack rankings than if the competition just has a website with no Charleston specific page, right? So those are a few ways that you can help with the off page. And again, there's more, things there's things called cloud stacks, which is like another linking. You can use cloud-based entities to link back to the Google Business Profile. We build location-specific blog posts and case studies for our clients sometimes to show Google, like, hey, here's actual before and afters and an actual case study of an actual water damage this client did in Charleston, and then that is put on the website. And remember, the website and Google Business Profile are connected. So that's a little tactic we've been seeing that works well. And the large language models, like the AI platforms, kind of like that too, because it's real. We're not making them up. Like they can see, oh man, these images were taking. Because remember, images a lot of times are tagged with location data, so they can see that. Oh man, these like pictures were taken in Charleston. There's like it's called like XF data or something like that on the image. So that's like a little advanced strategy that you guys can look into. And then obviously backlinks to the website, builds authority to the website, which remember the website's connected to the Google Business Profile. Then I already touched on this too, like press releases is another way to get backlinks and authority from local news sites. And you can tie in both your website and Google Business Profile to the press releases. So I didn't have bullets on those, but there's, I know some of this is, kind of technical and kind of goes deep, but again, that's why we exist. Some people are like, man, I'm not trying to figure all that out. But some of you can, like I said, if you're trying to do this yourself, then I just gave you some strategies you can do. Um, Now, restoration is a little bit different than some industries, obviously, because if it's an emergency situation, some people will just pull out their phone and do a search, and the first one they see, they call, right? And sometimes that's why. Sometimes it's LSA, sometimes people come across a Google ad, they still call it. Now, a lot of volume does come down to the Google business profile area. But it's wild. If you ask around, like a lot of people just, I mean, some people don't even know what they're clicking, right? That's why when you ask, we hear our clients ask on the phone, like, how'd you find us? They'll say Google, right? They're not going to say, oh, I saw a local service ad. Oh, I mean, they don't, you can't even tell the difference. Um, and this is interesting too. What I've noticed a lot over the past 6 months is like Google over the years, like they're changing how some of this looks. I think to blend in a lot of the ads to make it look more organic, because again, Google likes to make money. They're a for-profit company. So that's why we're still seeing volume, a ton of volume through pay-per-click and local service ads because they're kind of blending a little bit. But again, this is about Google business profile, but just keep all that stuff in mind. You got to watch how Google makes these changes over time. Um, and I touched on this earlier about the 24/7. If you do 24/7, make sure your profile is set for 24/7. I already went over why earlier. And then real photos, recent reviews, yeah, job specific language, but don't overdo it. And on the pictures, which I'll show you more about too. Remember, real authentic pictures. Google can see all this stuff now. Um, Category selection. I mean, remember, this is the basics, but you can check it. I still come across profiles all the time that are not correct. If you're a water, fire, mold company, um, water damage restoration service, if water is your primary thing you want to get more of, which a lot of you on here, I'm sure it is, that would be your primary category. And then there is a fire damage secondary category. And then mold would just be like go under the services area. Um, there's still not a separate category when it comes to the mold, right? And I can maybe show you all this real quick. Let's just see, because some of y'all might be like, I don't even know what he's talking about. All right. So just to help on that point I just said, these are local service ads. These are Google ads, pay per click. These are Google business profiles. This is what we're talking about. Now, you see how this says water damage restoration? Like these are the categories for that particular company. So how you can check, watch this. Now let's do Boss Restoration, Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. It should trigger this. And see, this right here tells me water damage is their primary category. It won't necessarily show to the public what the secondary categories are, but you want to make sure you have it there. Um, so that's how you see what your primary set to. But I mean, I still see people that are like, yeah, I'm trying to get more water, and I'm like, well, you're set up as a GC, so you got to pick. And again, you remember you can have both, but if you want to grow the water side of the business and you're not set up that way, that's not going to help your cause. So keep that in mind. There's a little thing on the categories, and so you can see it in real life. Um, but yeah, it's a huge ranking signal. And then yeah, I already said about the secondary categories. I mean, you want to have any and everything in there listed that you do. Um, and yeah, you want to make sure the categories reflect the more leads and calls and jobs that you're looking for. Because if the category is not in there, then there's basically a 0% chance that you're going to be ranking in the map pack for that side of the business. Okay. So service areas, don't get spammy here, but it should reflect the territory you cover. Um, and remember, I touched on this earlier, like Google kind of looks at your Google business profile. Remember, your Google business profile connects to your website. Um, See this right here? This is a link to the website. So this is how it funnels through there. Um, or the algorithms do. So it looks at the consistency against like what you're saying and what's true. And they're getting better at the day at this stuff, right? So make sure your business description's fully fleshed out. Don't spam it, but just say kind of what you do, what you're about, where you're located. Um, but don't, like I said, don't be saying water damage every other word because that's we've actually seen some profiles that we took over. Like Google, this isn't the only reason, but we've seen some profiles go down from spamminess from this. So be careful. You don't want to have one sentence in there, but you don't want to like overdo it. And that's what this is, tricky about it. Um, and have some professional, good-looking photos on here. You can have before and afters, team photos. Like you see here, this guy's in here with the branded sweatshirt doing a job. You can see the wrap truck. I mean, here they just threw all the trucks out there. I mean, some of y'all seen the photos too, but they bring out all the trucks, they bring out all the equipment, and they set the team down in front of them. I mean, those look pretty sweet too. But like, you just want to have a professional look and feel, not some cookie cutter. We've all probably seen it, the flooded living room with the couch just floating in it. Like, don't anybody can go find that picture on Google and just throw it on a profile, right? So real authentic stuff, real team photos, real jobs. And if they're real, remember they're going to be geotagged automatically and then to your profile. Google will see that. And remember, Google can read these images and like know what's in them now. So it's like getting harder and harder to make stuff up, right? Like if you just it'll know it's an AI photo or whatever versus a geotagged real photo. Which will kind of help keep the spammers out, right? Because I mean, 10 years ago, there was the spammers were out to play in this world for sure, but that stuff doesn't work anymore. You can have videos in the Google Business profile. I mean, this is a conversion factor when it comes to your websites and stuff like that too. But I mean, you can have your team doing a quick little job. You can upload it to the photo. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be anything crazy and too fancy. But again, that just Google will see that, these LLMs will see it, and I think from a conversion rate, the person looking at them will get a good look and feel of how it might be to work with you in your company, right? So don't overdo it. I don't think you don't slap 30 videos in there, but videos can help. And then reviews, I touched on this. Remember, if the person can mention the service, great. Do not overdo it. Recency is a huge signal. If the last review you got was a year ago, that's not going to carry as much weight to somebody who's getting two a week, right? So keep them coming as often as you can and never stop, is my theory on that. But yeah, and see, I use this as an example earlier. Great service and a 5 star is better than no 5 star. But if it's detailed about the company and what you help, then that's better. So keep that in mind. And then yeah, there's different ways to get more reviews. I mean, you can have a QR code made. I mean, we in our software Lead Cottage, our clients get, I mean, we have like ways for using automations too to email and text people to try to capture more 5 star reviews. But I'll say the best way to do it is when whoever's doing the final walkthrough, closing out the job, whatever, ask them right then and there. Right? That is the highest converting, best way to do it, period. And I'll tell you a little trick too. A lot of I mean, you can kind of incentivize your text too, maybe. Like, hey, you get $25 for every 5 star review. Hey, this month we're doing a giveaway. you get 25 bucks every 5-star review. Whoever gets the most, you get a $500 bonus. Remember, you incentivize what you want more of. So those are a lot of our clients are doing that. That works really well. I mean, you got to figure out your people and what they want. And I mean, the amount obviously can fluctuate. But you know your people. So that's a great way to kind of get the whole company and whole team, all rowing in the same direction to be like, all right, reputation matters in this day and age. This is how we're gonna do it. And remember, consistency. And then you want to respond, be professional. Don't start spamming and saying water damage 45 times, but you want to, respond, review, acknowledge. And, you know, well, now you can hire us to help get rid of some of the battles if you want. That's going to be a game changer. But sometimes it's not easy, but we deal with that now. But especially for everybody on here that does rebuild, recon, I mean, we all know that I used to do it. Sometimes, you know, they'll hand you the backsplash they want when you're putting the kitchen back together, and then you put it up, you're like, that's not what I wanted. And you're like, what do you mean? You handed me the damn tile. What do you mean it's not what you wanted? I've been there, I've done it. I know there's just those people. I mean, ideally you don't want to like filter that out and just don't do the job. But the reconstruction world, we all know can be a little difficult. Sometimes you're gonna have bad reviews. It's just life. Um, but what we've seen, as long as 4.7 is kind of like the minimum. Like if you start dropping below that, your volume is definitely going to go down. 4.9 and 5 is kind of obviously where you want to be. So I mean, if you have, just keep that in mind. Um, so when it comes to reviews, like I said, respond. And again, even if they're wrong, be professional in your response. You can't be out there blasting because some people will be like, "Damn, these people they're mean. I don't want them doing work." Like you need to handle every review in a just be real and authentic. Don't start bashing them. But Google business profiles, they still matter. They still work. Obviously, you can link it to your site too. I mean, you don't have to like do 5 a day. We haven't seen where like increasing the quantity way up really has that much weight. But 1 to 2 a week is kind of where we see a sweet spot because it's consistent, it's fresh, it's about different things on the company. So you want activity it's like mini blogs is basically what it is on the GVP posting. So, you can have educational content, job content, employee of the month content. I mean, you can get creative with this, and I would kind of change it up, and I would rotate through some of the services you do too, right? So you could be about, you got some water, fire, mold, or we're creeping out of winter time, but pipe burst for a lot of you in the northwest, west, or not west, but Midwest, I guess, Midwest, northeast, northwest, pipe burst and all that, frozen pipes that are bursting from the winter storms and all that. You could have a GBP post relevant to that, right? So that way, if somebody sees, oh yeah, I'm actually dealing with a pipe burst. Um, so we'll do some questions here then, because I do have a hard stop at 3 o'clock today, unfortunately. So we'll keep rolling. So maybe we'll have some time for a Q&A at the end. Messaging, you can, there is a messaging on mobile where they can kind of just message you instead of calling. Ideally, yes, we want the call. It's higher converting because you can kind of talk it out with them, qualify them, handle objections if you need to versus a message. But some people don't want to call, and especially as younger generation, some of them want to just text somebody, right, or chat. So that is an aspect you want to make sure you have the ability to accept that and be responsive, answer the phone, obviously. But Google sees all this, especially when it comes to local service ads. I mean, this is not a local service ads one, but it'll affect the volume you get if Google's like, like, dude, why am I going to send you more work? You can't even answer the phone. It's basically what they look at. Because remember, ultimately, we're trying to send signals and trust and show Google like, all right, man, this company is rolling with it. Um, some common mistakes. Yeah, I already mentioned this. No keyword stuffing anywhere. No set it and forget, forget it. It's got to be consistent activity. Respond to everything that comes through. Um, remember, there must be alignment between the GBP and the website. Consistent NAP, consistent services, consistent info. Um, that's easier for the AI and Google to see what's going on and build trust. Um, yeah, and ads. I mean, it's two different fishing poles, right? Like you're like, oh, I'm gonna ignore this. I mean, because there's more volume through GBP too. So I'd be like, well, why are you ignoring the more volume play and jumping straight to pay per click? I mean, really, lack of consistency is the ultimate problem. Like I'm sure if you're on here, you've probably dealt with lack of consistency of leads and jobs. That's why it's not really well. And again, I typically will advise the best play based on your market, your size of your company, how ambitious you're trying to be, because certain strategies want to be implemented based on where you're at. How we operate, we don't advise the same thing for everybody because that's just the right thing to do in my mind. So I mean, some of you might not be able to, um, handle that as based on where you're at. But remember, that's not going to solve the GBP problem. And sometimes, people might see an ad and they go to look you up and they're like, damn, I don't see a GBP anywhere with any reviews. Maybe they were going to they saw the ad and they're going to call you through GBP. They couldn't find it. You lose the lead. So that's why, I agree with the bottom one. The organic credibility supports everything. And I've heard this from one of our clients because we were having a conversation with him about getting more reviews. And somebody, yeah, I don't know, something happened to where I don't know. He for some reason he didn't want to he wanted to wait on that, and then he lost a plumbing referral though because they looked them up and they were like, um, he looked like a shoddy company, right? So they're like, dude, I'm not. How can I trust you to refer you jobs? Like you got a 3.2 rating. Like you know what I mean? You lose a referral. I mean, it doesn't happen every day, but um, for some of you that have multiple offices, no PO boxes anymore. A lot of people work from home. I mean, especially if you're on the smaller end, like I know that's real, but Google is just Google and they're a pain in the butt. And, we help our clients get it done sometimes, but, sometimes we're like, hey, throw the equipment in the garage, put the truck in the driveway because it's a wrap truck, put a desk somewhere. We got to make this look like an office. I mean, we don't always have to go to that extent, but having a GBP is extremely valuable. So sometimes you got to think outside the box. Um, but it needs to, and you can hide your address um, by setting it up as a service area GBP if you need to. Um, man, I should have had a slide in here on that actually. And then that way people won't see your home address you're using for your office. But we have tested this. When it comes to GBP rankings, having a physical address that's shown carries more weight and is easier to rank than a service area no address. We've tested it. And again, it's not everything. Like if you already have it set up that way, fine, leave it. But we help a lot of guys expand out to multiple states, multiple offices, whatever. And so that so that is brought up in the conversation. Like, hey, like if you got a real office, we're gonna leverage your office. We don't need to hide it. Because again, speed to results, which equals speed to more calls, is what we all want. So keep that in mind. Yeah, keep the branding consistent, and that'll help with your conversion rate. And again, at the end of the day, remember you want to track calls. I mean, the direction request is a signal, but in our industry too, remember, like we're going to them, they're not coming to us. Um, But I mean, sometimes people might be trying to find you whatever for whatever reason. Maybe they finally bringing you the check you've been asking for or something, right? Um, but ultimately, remember, this is kind of a part of your first impression online, which attracts better clients, which a lot of times are better jobs, right? So that this kind of plays into why Google Business Profiles are important. And I already mentioned on this too, you got to be consistent. This is not a one-time thing because you better believe it. This is your competition is trying to figure this out too because they know how much revenue can come through this particular fishing pole, and a lot of this compounds over time, which is the exciting part. Um, and then, I've kind of already talked about this, but remember the AI algorithms and the LLMs, they can see all of this now, and it kind of used to be like, oh, like they just knew the image was there. Like now they can kind of like they know what's in the image. It's wild. So keep that in mind. Keep it all real and authentic though as well. And yeah, I mean these are just a few examples. I mean you want to be at the top, dominating with a lot of reviews and a good rating. That's how you get volume, right? So, well, this is just a random one I put in here. This is one of our guys. I mean, yeah, it leads to volume, right? And I'll show you. I thought I had something else too I want to show you, but so what time we got? 2:46. All right, I'm doing good. So remember, clarity and credibility, no spammy stuff, right? This helps position you well for AI. We all know it's coming. There's nothing we can do about it. That's why you want to either yourself or make sure your marketing company's all over it because it's not going away. And we're just gonna have to learn about it and figure it out as time goes on, right? That's all we can do. But what I just covered today is what's working now to be positioned for it and capitalize on it. Um, and then, I'll send out the workbook here in a minute too. But for any of you that like, listen to podcasts while you're in the truck or making your coffee in the morning, whatever, I'm gonna try to stay more consistent this year on bringing on guests and doing podcasts about, all things restoration, construction, etc., just growing and scaling businesses. So um, tune in if you want, and then I will drop this in the chat for you guys if I can find it. Yeah, many. That's what I'm saying. Mold isn't a category on that, but there's a services, not a category, but you could have it in your description, and there's like somewhere. Um, let's see. Yeah, I might have to be. You might have to be logged in to see what I'm thinking of. But you can have products too. I missed that too. Because this is what we typically do as well. You can have different products. Um, think of the product section as like a service page on your website about what you do. But when you log into your GBP, it's not showing here, but there is a services section where you can have mold removal listed on there under Google Business Profile. Um, but for all of you still on here, click the link in the chat. It's a PDF, and then you should be able to. There's a download button. Well, depending on what browser you're looking, but just look for the little arrow pointing down, or you should be able to download it and open the PDF. Or I guess you could probably just look at it here. I don't even know, but y'all can kind of go through that. And then, like I said, some of you, if you don't want to like deal with all this, you're like, man, my head's spinning. I don't have time for this. I'll put our calendar in the chat too. You can feel free to book a call with us, and we'll look at your particular situation and If you just want us to run with it, we can, obviously. So, and don't forget too, um, if you have a review, well, I'll be honest, I don't, a 2.9 makes me a little nervous. But if you have a few reviews that they're like, man, this is messed up, I shouldn't have got it. Book a call too, and we can talk about that because, like I said, I've hired a lot of people um, over the years, and we brought on some. I mean, all of our people know Google, obviously, 'cause that's what we do. But we have some policy specialists now, so this is why we're able to offer this. Because it's anything dealing with Google on anything is a pain. But this is why we rolled it out because it matters so much. So many people need help with it, and we got it figured out. So keep that in mind if you need that help on that end. And like I said, use the link in the chat if you want to chat about anything I covered today or just all things, ramping up by leveraging the internet basically. And then, all right, I'm doing pretty good. I got a couple minutes for Q&A. So any questions about anything? I might even be able to unmute y'all. I don't even know. But drop it in the chat if you have a question. And then I don't know. Any questions? Hopefully y'all got some value from this today. Some of it was probably basic, but I mean, some of the off-page stuff is probably not everybody's doing that for sure. So that's hopefully that helped out. All right. Any questions? I don't Does anybody um yeah, how are we staying on top of all that? Man, that's a good question. Um so our we have like an internal software that we've kind of integrated AI into to help us with some of our SEO stuff for speed. Like we can do technical SEO audits, in minutes versus weeks now. So that I mean that's how we're leveraging it internally. Um, but sorry, I got distracted by another question. But yeah, I mean we're kind of creating a culture of staying on top of AI. And then I keep a pretty good um well, not as good as I should, because the more I look into it, the more I feel like it's coming. And then we test things too. That's the tricky part, is just because you see an article or some, YouTube video or whatever, like you got to be careful because I mean now people can create fake videos and like it's not even real, any of it. It's all AI. So that's where you got to be careful. And that's why, like, if you guys are working with anybody, you better make sure they got the track record to back it up and they know what they're doing, because there's a lot of fluff out there, unfortunately. But we all have to filter through it. But yeah, I mean, I try to keep a pulse on just what's going on in the marketplace. As far as the AI changes, like I said, I mean, we're all over the U.S. and Canada, so we have quite a bit of data too that we study and analyze, and then we just watch what's happening. Um, but I look at all this too from a restorer's perspective, because some of it, you know, if it's an AI change for, Google Shopping or whatever, like that's not relevant to us, so I ignore it. So that's like my job as owner too, is that y'all heard the saying, there's like you got to figure out how to filter the signal from the noise. And we all know there's a lot of noise out there in the world right now, right? I mean, this is interesting times. So our job as owners to figure out is like, all right, what matters? Where's the market going? Where's the industries going? What matters to helping me grow the business? And that's the difficult part. Um, but yeah, I mean, just poking around is kind of how I try. Remind me a site. What's your question, Gary? Um, no, I mean stock photos are fine here, and I mean it's better than nothing, but I wouldn't like try to keep them there long term. Um, yeah, I mean it's better than nothing. I mean a website's better than no website. Stock photos are better than no photos. Um, but some of the photos, like having real before and afters, real team photos, kind of like I was showing here, some of this can help. I mean, this is just some of, it's type like this. I mean, like we have some guys that like a full blown about us video too on the website, right? To help. Um, but yeah, something's better than nothing. But over time, I would want to get those updated. Yeah, I don't follow you carrying your question. Sorry. I don't remind me of a site you can search your address on the web. Maybe you're referring to the citation thing. All right. Any other questions? I got a couple more minutes before I have to go. Um, but remember, I dropped the book a call with us if you want to chat about your specific situation. If you want to talk about some of this review removal stuff, and then make sure you stay tuned for next month's webinar. Um,